what's going on, fellas? How are you?
Hey,
What's
hey,
going
hey.
on? Glad to be here.
You good
Absolutely.
to be here. How was your day? It was a gloomy day out there.
Today was gloomy. I tell you what, I work in construction. So,
Oh
uh,
wow.
right now, I'm just thankful to be on a project where we're in a building that's closed up. You know what I mean? Because you don't necessarily have a say so over the conditions that you're working under. But I'm just blessed to be inside right now. Now I know it was gloomy and cold outside today, so I feel for my brothers and sisters that had to work in the cold today. Potentially, but
I understand because right now at the present time I work outside for a transit company. And I
mm,
be like, standing at people's door knocking because we gotta do door to door. I'm like, y'all know it's cold out here. You don't bring your butt on out.
don't look out that blind. Don't peek through them blinds and just look at.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
like, just a minute. I be like, yeah, you think so? You gonna meet me at this van because I'm about to get back in this heat.
Yep, it's about that time. It's about that time.
Nico, what do you do?
Well, I work in operations for a parking company in DC. Constantly driving back and forth to different locations, checking on different garages, different facilities, networking with property managers and stuff like that. So I'm in and out. I'm out the cold. I'm out in the cold. Then I'm in a little bit of warmth. Then I'm back out in the cold. So it's a little back and forth. I keep strapped up though. I keep my coat on. I play it safe out here because I'm not messing around with COVID. I ain't messing around with flu. None of that. None of that. But all in all, I just feel blessed to see another day. To be honest, I can't complain at all. You know,
I don't blame you. I
but it
don't
is
blame
cold.
you. I don't like, I guess it's winter. I don't care for the winter. Thank you for the season, but I'd rather have summer, spring, and fall.
Absolutely.
And I'm a spring baby. So
The spring.
yeah, I'm a spring baby, so I need my
Right.
spring.
Yeah, I'm in the fall.
Okay.
I love that breeze.
Maybe that's why I don't mind the cold as much. I'm a winter baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew. Well, you can have your winter, fall, your snow. Please don't pray for snow, okay? Please don't be praying. You can have your winter season with the Christmas and the snow. And do you have kids? Do you have children?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
so you can go outside with your children and play in the snow.
My niece and my nephew, but I'm a child at heart, so I enjoy a snow day if I can get one.
Okay. Okay. So what's the age range? Nehemiah, how old are you?
I'm 27 years old.
Okay. Larry, how old are you?
36.
Okay. So we got 26 and 36. That's a 10-year gap, 10-year difference of experience of life.
27. 27.
Oh, you about to be 20?
You said 26. It's close.
Okay.
It's close.
I can't wait to hear you guys' experience. So I want to start off with this question. Give me one word to describe yourself and think about it because I'm going to go in depth of why you chose that word about
Mm.
yourself. Yeah.
One word.
Mm,
One word that will really define who you are as a man, representing your parents, representing who you want to be in the future, and your past.
mm.
That was good, huh?
Yeah, and so the gravity of the question is really what kind of made me freeze to begin with, because when you said, "Hey, I need this word to be specific and intentional because I'm going to come back to it," I was like, "Okay, this is not icebreaker style. Give me one word," and and it's like you could just blurt something out that is not gonna resurface. But I'm gonna select humility.
Okay.
Yeah. And did you? So are we explaining why or?
Okay, I'm gonna ask you why you chose that word. What's your word, Nehemiah?
Mine's, it would honestly have to be faithful.
Faithful. Okay. All right, so Larry,
Hmm.
you pick humility. We know the definition, but why did you pick that word to describe yourself?
So when you explain like the purpose behind the selection of the word, being reflective of my life experience is what made me say humility. I'm number one. I'm one of five, but I'm in between my sisters and my little brother. So I have three older sisters, myself, and then my little brother. And my little brother is from my dad's second marriage, so we didn't grow up with each other per se, like in the same household. It was me and my sisters. But being the only boy in a house of females, especially as an African American, you kind of um get introduced to well, I don't want to say so many, but you get introduced to multiple hats that you understand that you have to wear. And that also became a life understanding, I'll say. So just feeling like there are going to be different times where you're called to wear different hats, so to speak, and kind of walk under different identities. For me, I felt like the biggest tool that I could use in that would be humility, because you may not necessarily have a full understanding of how to wear the hat that you have to wear in a moment, but it doesn't change the fact that you have to wear it. So you may have to figure out how to gracefully accept your lack of understanding in the moment. You know what I mean? You may have to figure out how you still have to learn and be open in a moment that still requires you to do something. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, that's why that word stuck out.
And it does make sense. So give me an example in your life, if you remember,
Mhm.
when, like you said, you had to wear that hat or you
So
had to become that word that you chose to describe yourself.
right. So whole circle, like speaking or framing it out of the in context of that lifelong journey, right? So I remember Saturday morning, everybody had a chore. It was like one of those nobody. I grew up in one of those nobody's going anywhere until everybody's got their chore handled kind of household. So for me, I had the bathroom and the dishes. I remember that was my chore, right? But looking back, I also can see how that was something that maybe my sisters wouldn't have wanted to do. So it was like, you're going to take this chore that requires some humility. Don't nobody else want to scrub the toilet or do the dishes. This is your job. You know what I mean? So to me, I take that as an example of being tasked with something that requires humility, or something that may have even introduced me to that notion of, you have to do this and you're just gonna have to accept it. It requires you to be humble and to, you know, get on your knees, get that comment, get that brush, get those gloves, scrub. That's what this takes in order for it to get done. Kind of mentality. And then even transitioning or fast forwarding up the road into adulthood, right? So um I mentioned earlier I work in construction. That was not always my career. I used to work in the finance career, or the finance industry, I'll say. Um, and I had no idea or vision of getting into construction, right? So transitioning into um, that career field required humility. I had spent and invested over a decade in that finance arena. So when I transitioned into construction, I was extremely green, no experience. I was going to be completely reliant on just my work experiences in order to learn the skill set that I needed to be successful, right? So it kind of put me back in that space of, you got to be humble and just learn and roll up your sleeves and go after learning what it is that needs to be done in order for you to thrive in this kind of environment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And Nehemiah, you said faithful, so
Mhm.
describe that to us.
So, why did I choose faithful?
Yes.
Um, that stuck out to me because it's for me, being faithful is like kind of a daily walk. You know, you're faced with a lot of doubts, a lot of criticisms. You're faced with a lot of people's opinions about you that you may let get to you or get under your skin. You're faced with, even worse though, you're faced with your own criticisms. And sometimes you get caught up in your own mind and your own thoughts and doubting yourself, and I found myself doing that a lot, even sometimes, even to this day, I revert back a little bit to, some self-doubting and, just harsh criticism of myself. But then I have to think like, God brought me so far. There's a reason that I'm right here where I'm at. I'm not a failure. I'm not, a disappointment or anything like that. I know that there's a reason I'm here, and keeping that faithfulness, keeping that communication with God first and foremost, but keeping that faithfulness overall. I feel like that's what helps keep me grounded. At the end of the day. So that's why I chose faithfulness, specifically. Yeah.
As a young boy, did you know that you had this faithfulness?
As a young boy, I felt like I had like little sparks of it, like here and there, when I was younger. But it's like as I got older, I started to notice it more and noticed what it was. Because when you're young, you're young, you may not understand the world that much, but as you grow and you experience different things, you start to understand. Okay, this is what that is. Me being faithful is what's pushing me through life itself. You know, um, perfect example. Like I guess a perfect example of like when I was young was when I was younger, like in elementary, middle school, stuff like that. I wasn't necessarily the most popular kid for real. I actually got bullied quite a bit.
What?
Uh, yeah, I did. Yeah, when I was younger, yeah, I got bullied and stuff, picked on, stuff like that. Um, there were days that I felt like I would get a little envious. I'm like, why can't I be over there with the cool kids? Why can't I, you know, do this and do that with them? Or why I'm always getting picked last for certain things? And I had to understand, like, it's not necessarily about that. And I had to redirect my focus. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pray, and I have to accept myself. My mother would always tell me, you gotta, accept yourself and love yourself. And just doing that allowed me to increase my faithfulness when it came to God and when it came to how I viewed myself when I was younger. And in doing that, I was able to act on it. Case in point, like when it came to like little sports and stuff, like we playing around, I'm getting picked last all the time. So we playing football. It's fifth grade. I remember this like it was yesterday. So,
Mm.
but I got picked last to join the team or whatever. So I'm on their team or whatever like that. And we playing and stuff. And I told myself, I was like, you know what, I'm going to stand out this time. Like I'm going to make a play this time. And I did. I caught a pick, ran it back for the touchdown, and I felt good about that. And I'm looking back, and everybody over there cheering and stuff. Everybody is all happy. And after that, now everybody's so pressed to have me on their team now.
I know
I'm
that's right.
amongst the first because now I had that faithfulness in myself to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show out. I'm gonna do what I do. Next thing you know, everybody wanted to, have me on their team. And then that translated further into me growing up. And I was always nervous about, getting into, sports in school and stuff. But I went ahead and did that because I'm like, if I could do this, during recreational time, let me go ahead and actually join organized football and do that, And I had the faithfulness in myself to just be like, all right, I'm going to do that. And did really good. Became captain of my high school football team.
Oh, wow.
Did really good. We almost made it to the state finals actually when I was in my senior year of
Okay.
high school. Got a couple of college offers. Not D1. It was more like D2, D3 type schools, but still, that was something I was really proud of. So from my younger stages, that's what kind of stood out to me as far as faithfulness goes. You know.
Okay. So that's interesting how faithfulness was for Nehemiah and humility for Larry. So let me ask you this because this is intriguing to me. What is your definition of a boy and a man?
Mm.
And give me, if you can remember, if anyone like a father figure, your mother, or someone, what was their definition when they was instilling in you the difference between or the boy and a man? And then as you got older, how did you find the difference between a boy and a man?
Mm, that's a good one.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So, um, that initial definition of boyhood and manhood, you're wondering where did that formulate in our youth, and how did that differ from our perception of manhood in our adulthood?
Yes. And because, I hear some women, it was a song like a lady made, Still Raising a Man or something like that. So
Mm,
basically, she has a man. He looks like a man, but actuality, he's
mm,
still a boy. So,
mm.
what is your definition of a boy and a man? And how did you? Yeah, let me just ask that first. I don't want to like go too deep.
No,
So,
no, no. So I think I still struggle with the idea of defining what a boy and a man is,
okay,
because and the reason I say that is because I feel like essentially they're the same thing. It's just that the idea is you differ at an age point, right? And that's all based on the premise that you're supposed to be operating under a different level of maturity from point A to point B, right? So at 18, you have different liberties that you can take upon yourself. At 21, you have an extension of other liberties that you could partake in, or areas of access that you can now walk in because solely because of the fact that you're older now and you've reached that standard. But to me, those things also don't necessarily um, depict or mean that you're operating under that premise of maturity, right? You could be, 16 and be extremely mature, and be a boy. You could be 55 and be extremely immature. You a grown man. So that's why I say I kind of struggle with it, but um I'm gonna say that a boy. I'm gonna say a boy is a man in development.
That sounds about right. I
so
agree.
okay, I'm gonna say something to make it easy. Like me, I say I still have the little girl in me.
Mm,
I'm
Mm,
still playful.
mhm,
Sometimes I can trigger back to that little girl that has something, little trauma. And it takes time for that little girl inside of me to heal. But I can say, people can argue this, but I can say I had to become a woman earlier than what I should have because I was taking care of myself. But
mhm,
I was still a little girl
mm.
out here trying to feed myself. Became a woman, not a righteous woman, but I became a woman that knew how to manipulate at an early age. So that's okay. So that's what I'm asking. When did you find that you was a woman, a boy? Sorry, a boy and a man,
Gosh.
and
I-
you start growing in certain areas? Like, wow, I see myself matured. I'm not that little boy that my mom thought I used to be because now I am taking responsibility and making my own advice or making more responsible decisions.
okay, okay.
I see.
What
So
time is it tonight? Don't
You
get
want,
quiet.
you want me to take it from here while you think about it, Larry?
go for it.
Got you. Okay. So I completely agree with your viewpoint, by the way, also. I do think that there's definitely a difference in mindset for sure. Um, I think for me to like, I feel like for a boy, I feel like we absorb a lot. Like, a boy, a child, I feel like we absorb so much and we're growing and we're just absorbing everything around us, these different teachings, these different experiences with friends, family. It could be television, radio, everything around us. And I feel like, with a man, I feel like that's where we're kind of, we're seeing the results of everything that we absorbed, over all this time. It's like we're starting to, push that stuff out. We're starting to formulate our own opinions, and we're starting to, do our own things that others are starting to absorb around us. And I feel like, there's like you said, it's definitely people who are older with childish mindsets where they act childish as well, and then you have people who are younger with more mature mindsets. I think it all just depends on the person and what all they absorbed when they were younger and how they applied it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's like, for me, I feel like that's the main difference between a boy and a man is just what they absorbed at a young age and then what they exert out as they get older.
And I'm glad you said that, because do you think sometimes what you learn at a younger age cripple you when you're an adult? And I'm talking about becoming more vulnerable or more allowing your feelings, because I have seen both sides where when a young boy fall, immediately whoever that guy is, they man up. You don't need to be, you know,
Mm-hmm.
ain't no mother. I probably hit the dude like, don't be in my child. But but is that a in their life right there that crippled that young boy to when he get older in that stage, he in that moment he should not have matured to be a man of holding his feelings in. It should have been, are you okay? It's okay. You heard him. It's okay to allow it out and allow your cries out, and then let's talk about it. Instead of, I don't know why men always hitting other men and little boys in the chest. This is what I think. Man up, toughen up. What is that? Please, have you experienced that in your life as a young boy?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
So what? So how? Okay, do you remember in that moment? What was your moment like? What was that thought? Boom! When your uncle, your dad, or your big brother, or somebody came to you, saw that you was crying, hit you in your chest, and said, "Man up, wipe them tears, stop crying. Let's get real. Stop being a little bee." If that even occurred, okay. So what was that? If you remember, what was that instant moment in your mind as a young boy?
I think that the initial thought was confusion, right? Because it's like I understood that there was a difference, but maybe didn't have a full understanding of what that difference was. You know what I mean? Or not having clarity about the difference. I think that that led to the indicator you're different than girls, right? So it may be okay, like because I would see my sisters or a girl cry, and it was okay for them to be consoled or comforted or come to mommy or what's wrong or those kind of things. And it wasn't that everybody in my family would come to me that way. It would be like maybe my grandmother would love on me that way. Come here, grandma's baby. Come here. It's okay. It's all, you know what I mean? Like that, I would receive that kind of affection there, but maybe not from the rest of the world. So it just was like it's there's a difference. You're different because you're a boy. There are certain, I want to say, gender associative behaviors you can engage in because you're a boy, but then there's a whole other series of things that you shouldn't do because you're a boy. So it just kind of it I will say that it made me feel like there's this Rubik's cube on the inside that I got to figure out, right? um and growing up in a non-traditional home, meaning like so the beginning part of my childhood, my mom was a single mom. My mom met and remarried my stepdad in my childhood, right? So, but part of my childhood, I was just raised, by my mom, and by my community as well, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because understanding you're a boy and different from a girl meant I wanted to learn, okay, well, how do I be a man? This was the question that I felt I was trying to, answer inside of my head as a boy, and not having my dad in the same household for that time. It opened my mind up to the concept of you're just gonna learn from other men. You know what I mean? Like you're going to look at I remember being introduced to the concept early in life that look at everybody, look at every man and just know that you're gonna pick things that you like and things that you don't like. Like don't just look for what you don't just look to mimic who they are. Look to see are they a good person? You know what I mean? And take from them what's good and leave what's bad. So in that sense, I kind of turn, you know, the men in my life into a classroom or like a quasi mentor of sorts.
Hey, Nehemiah.
So I think growing up, like, you know, you fall down and they, you know, hit you on the chest talking about, you know, toughen up and all that. I think there was this weird stigma around men um, growing up where it's like you have to be tough at all times. You cannot show your emotions. Showing your emotions was a sign of weakness. Again, that's why I thank God for my mother. I keep bringing it up. But she was able to show me that, you know, showing your emotions is actually a sign of strength. You
Mm,
know, in that moment when, you know, because I got it from my brothers all the time, and, you know, even people at school and stuff, like, oh, toughen up and this and that, blase, blase. It's like in that moment, it's like I felt angry because I could not express myself the way I wanted to. And it's like they just like, nah, just toughen up, you know, just do that. I'm like, you know, you can be tough, but you can still show your emotions at the same time. It's like nobody really grasped that concept, you know, when they was, you know, doing those things. Like when you fall down, nobody asks, like you said, not asking, are you okay? What's going on? Stuff like that. They just like, nah, get up. You know, stop acting like you said, stop acting like a little bee or whatever like that, you know. Like that's their first instinct. And then as you grow older, dealing with that so much, it becomes your instinct to block your emotions and not really, you know, show them the way how you truly feel. And then people wonder why, you know, they have so much going on in their life, whereas, you know, it's like you can't express yourself the way you want to. Like you can't be real. You can't be true to yourself because there's this environment around you that's like, nah, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be this. You're supposed to be that. And it's like, why can't I be true to myself though? At the
mm,
end of the day, I could still be tough and I could do this and that, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm going through stuff mentally, emotionally, and I need to let that out. You know, and when you don't let that stuff out, it's no telling where it could lead you. It could lead you into depression. It can lead you to suicide. It's a number of things that not letting those real emotions out can lead you. It can deter you from even being able to be in a healthy relationship just because you can't express yourself the way you want to, and you was conditioned that way. And
mm,
now it's like you feel like you're kind of stuck. And now you got all these people that really need therapy now because of stuff like that. They couldn't express themselves the way they really needed to in a healthy manner.
mm,
And I feel like, you know, to have to bottle stuff in, to have to hold stuff in, next thing you know, you find yourself feeling numb. You know,
Mm.
now it's hard for you to even have an emotional um, like moment or an emotional connection with someone because you can't even get in touch with your emotions. You've been conditioned and they pretty much beat the emotions out of you, you know? So it's like, you know, how can you even, you know, be true to yourself at the end of the day when you can't even express yourself the way that you really want to, the way that how you really truly feel, you know?
yeah, I want to chime in on the back end of that because there was some good things that the Nico brought up. Number one, and also Portia, part of your question was there an experience at one point that you were just like, okay, I'm a man and I have to kind of walk in manhood, right? So it running back to Nico's example with football, right? How he said, hey, I wanted to believe in myself and also receiving encouragement from, you know, his mom or people in his life that gave him the confidence to say, I'm gonna make that play. I do have this ability. I'm gonna make a game changer play. And then how that altered his trajectory of his thinking of himself, right? So um that that instance for me in adulthood was, I mentioned earlier working in finance. I didn't have any ambition or idea that that's something that I was going to do. It's just where I ended up. And I knew it. Well, so I would say that I tend to kind of be a perfectionist. Anything that I do, I want to do really well at, and that's work too. So, but prior to that, I couldn't necessarily say that I would have seen myself in any kind of a leadership position in the work arena. Um, and having somebody come to me and say, "Hey, have you considered doing that?" was like that pat on the back, that confidence that was like, oh, maybe I can. You know what I mean? So like that's what I connected with Nico's football example, because it was the same thing in the work environment. It was like that encouragement led me to be like, no, maybe I can. And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna be bold enough to step out on faith and pursue doing something outside of the realm of what I may see myself capable of doing. And it went well. So then it was like, okay, well, if you got some leadership ability in you, what other how deep does the scope of leadership exist within you, kind of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I thought that was good, the fact that, because to me that touched on the difference between um the how society tries to shape and mold you into a man versus what can happen just from organic nurturing of your community. You get what I'm saying? Like in both of those instances, the societal rule is man up. You know what I mean? Like even at the beginning when you asked the question, it made me think about that little boy that went viral on Instagram who was beating on his chest. He's like, I'm the daddy, I'm grown. I'm the daddy, I'm grown. And it was like he did it till his chest was red, not having to understand that but that is the initial image of manhood that he was exposed to. So he's not, he's not even a full toddler thinking this is how this is what manhood looks like. This is all it is. This is what I do. I bang on my chest and yell until you respond the way that I want you to, right? And then also with what Nico was saying about like the way that you're allowed to portray or have to bottleneck your emotions, right? So now that individual is maybe thinking, this is how I get a response from the world. That's also the kind of behavior that can end you in prison.
Yeah.
So it's like, how would that have differed? And I mean, this is just hypothetical at this point, but how would that differ from we heard the mom in the background saying, stop, your chest red, you being silly, stop, right? So but what if she would have just said, hey, you do not have to act this way. I know that that's what you've seen, but listen to mommy, you don't have to do that, right? And so it's also the difference between what Nico was saying about like the understanding that we have now. Now we're willing to we're as a world, as a culture, willing to deal with trauma and shock therapy a little different than we were, back then. I think that we were kind of committed to these traditional approaches that wasn't even resolved. It was just, this is what we do. You get what I'm saying? But now it's like, there's a legitimate way to handle this. Let's just do it the right way, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It's how can you just allow a boy to be a boy, allow him to enjoy childhood, allow him to go through the stages that he wants to go through when there is a situation he falls, if there is a situation where he need understanding in areas, teach him as a boy or a 7 year old, 8 year old, or 9 year old, not teaching a 7 year old what to do when he's 22.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know, sometimes I was watching a movie where I guess the dad had to leave. Maybe I'm gonna just make up a scenario. The dad go to jail, and now he's telling a little boy at 7 years old, now you gotta be the man of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What is that? Help me as a guy. What is that? Like, why would you're telling a 7 year old to be the man of the house where he should be focusing on school and learning and, like you say, learning how to catch that ball, building his confidence as a young boy instead of trying to have the worries of whatever his mother should be worrying about.
I think around that time, it's like when people experience the world. I mean, the world can be a messed up place sometimes. That's just the truth of the matter. And I get why they do it. I get why they try to toughen you up and all this stuff and try to place all this unwarranted responsibility on a child and stuff like that, because they in their mind it's like I my words, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in their minds it's like they feel like they're preparing you for the real world. That's what I've heard all the time. I'm just trying to get you ready for the real world. I'm trying to get you prepared. But it's like, there's other ways that you haven't even explored, but you think that this is the way to do it. By grooming someone from, like you said, 7 years old, talking about, all right, you got to be the man of the house. I don't know where he about to work at. Like, I don't know, where he about to get the money for the bills and, all that other stuff. I don't know what he about to fix around the house. I don't know how that's gonna work out. But it's like you're planting this seed that could turn out to be disastrous. And like Larry said, could possibly land you in jail. Because little boy could be thinking, okay, what am I gonna do to get money? All right, I'm not old enough to work. Let me go rob the corner store or something. You're gonna find any little way to show, oh, I'm a man. I could do this. It's baby steps. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta take baby steps into manhood. You can't just jump right in there. Like you're gonna fall flat on your face. You know. So yeah.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what Nico was saying, and I feel like that's I have the same sentiment, because when you say like, well, what is that? I think that that's us respond, and when I say us, I mean like culturally. I think that right now, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen outside of the African American group. I'm just speaking towards um my experiences, right, and my realities. So, but I think that that's us responding to the this approach that we just feel works for us. You know what I mean? Like this indoctrinated approach of this is what you do, and I don't even so we feel lost, but it's like if you think about what we have experienced as Black Americans, um, or Black Africans transitioning into America, right? I think that that's the root of the trauma. If you as a slave are beat, you cannot express emotion. They're not trying to hear "ouch, that hurts." They're just like, "Hey, get back to work." And it was a means of expressing authority and showing I'm in charge of you, I'm over you. If you do not do what I say, I will inflict pain on you, and then dare you to show emotion. So when that lack of emotional response is taken away from you and then ingrained into your psyche as a people, it can be challenging to break away from it. And people say, oh, slavery was so long ago. We know that it takes 30 days to start and stop a habit. But if there's a habit that you've been walking in for hundreds of years, then it's
Mhm.
equally as long for you to step away from it. So yeah, we are still hurt people trying to learn how to effectively heal from some of our traumas. And I mean, I think it's just ironic that we're in a space where the world is also shining the lens on mental health and the appropriate way to deal with those kind of issues. Even so, when we were talking, the question before this question, it made me think about a stand-up special I saw, and the comedian literally said, somebody asked me something, and I had the opportunity to do what I think a lot of Black men in America do not have the opportunity to do, which is to think about how I feel. Like just acknowledging the fact that I have the ability to think about how I feel before I answer this question, and that be a luxury to you because it's outside of the realm of the common experience.
Mhm. That's good. Because basically telling us unlearned behavior, in the family going down generations and generations and generations. When you're going to stop putting this all on a young man or not allowing that young man to express himself. You're bad. Okay, can you talk to that little boy and ask him what is going on with him? Because sometimes he don't know how to express himself. Now he's doing something that's negative to express himself. He don't know how to properly express himself. And it goes on as, generations to come. And that what gets me to this next question. When do you realize, how do you separate yourself, or do you, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this question, because it's like, to me, I really want to know. So being a man and then being a black man. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm trying to structure
Mm-hmm.
this question with, how do you identify, or do it make you upset when you have to, I feel like, separate yourself? Like, I feel like when you go in your household, like when you at home, you just a full blown man. You don't have to look at yourself as a black man. But when you walk out the door, then you're this black man walking into the world. You cannot just be looked at as a man, a good man. They look at you as this black man. Help
Mm-hmm.
help me, or help the audience understand your feelings about that, and what, triggers you, and what makes you upset about that, and what makes you sad and gets you frustrated, and how you overcome, or are you still overcoming this, just being looked at as a black man instead of just looking at a man as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
It's for me specifically, this happens to me probably almost every single day. I lie to you not. So I go to an office building and I get on the elevator. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to one of them floors. And it's so funny because to me, I'm on an elevator just trying to get to a destination, right? And the elevator stops, the door opens on the second floor. I'm trying to get to the fifth, sixth floor, whatever, like that. And I see that there's a white person there, right? The second the elevator door opens, they look startled. They're like, "Oh my god, it's a black man." They look like they're confused. They don't know if they should get on the elevator or if they should wait for the next one. And this happens every single day. I lie to you not. And I'm just sitting there like, "Good morning. You gonna get on the elevator or what, what you doing?" And it's like for me, it's not. I don't get angry necessarily. It takes a lot for me to get angry. That right there, that's that's nothing for me. But it's like at the same time, though, I do feel kind of saddened by that. That we are still in a time where as soon as you see, you don't have to say two words to me. You don't know me at all. This is your first time seeing me because my skin is black. You automatically just look startled, and the reason I know it's because my skin is black is because I've experienced times where the person, they was hesitant to get on the elevator, and then they finally decided, okay, I'm gonna get on the elevator with the black guy, and we go up. I say good morning. They may not say anything back. Like I said, I don't take it personal. I really don't take it personal at all. It's not that serious for me. And another white person gets onto the elevator. That person says good morning to them. They say good morning back. Nice bright smile on their face. They look like they're at home. They like, okay, cool. We got another white person on here. All right, bet. We have a witness. Like, and I would see that and I'm like, wow, like that is so sad that you really feel that way toward me. And I didn't even have to say anything to you.
Mm.
Have to do anything to, all you saw was my skin. You saw I'm a dark skinned man on an elevator, and immediately you just felt uncomfortable. And if people of different ages, it's not just old white people, it's middle aged, young, all that. And it's like I said, for me, it's just like I feel really sad that like you really feel that way just by saying my color. And I feel like to react that way to me is a sign of immaturity. Like I'm just like to not get to know somebody, but to judge them just on their looks. The fact that, oh, this person doesn't look like me. That's childish. Let's take it back to kindergarten days and elementary school days. You saw somebody that you didn't like or whatever like that. You saw somebody who looked weird, or in my case, I didn't really fit in or whatever like that. You're like, oh no, I want to stay with this group because this is the group that's in, and them over there, they're not. I'm like, it's so childish, you know. And these are grown folk, grown white people that are literally just looking at the color of my skin. Oh no, I will not associate myself with him. Absolutely not. I don't even. Some of them don't even get on the elevator. They like, hey, no, I wait for the next one. Nope, they don't even do it. And you know, it's like to see that for me. Like I said, I don't feel angry at all. I don't feel no animosity towards you because I'm a grown man. Like I don't judge you just because oh you white. Like that doesn't mean anything. Like to me, I see that you're white. I'm like, I just see okay, you're white. I see that, but you're a person. You know, you're a human being. That's you know, and I'm like, I'm not about to treat you some type of way because I'm black and you white, or I'm not gonna get on the elevator. I don't want to be nowhere near you because you white. That doesn't bother me. The fact that you're white, that doesn't get under my skin at all. The fact that you're white, but the fact that I'm black just so happens to get under your skin that much. It affects you that much that you feel like you can't even get on the elevator.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, Nehemiah. I know you have a mate, you have a wife, with the pressures of what you was talking about, how you are, what you get when you're outside the household. Do you come back and express these experiences with your wife to let that load off your shoulders?
I do. I do. She'll tell you. She has plenty of stories that I've told her about, you know, just all that. And I appreciate, you know, her allowing herself to like be my outlet, kind of. Because sometimes I'll talk her head off about my experiences, you know, just being out there with and dealing with all that stuff, being in traffic and dealing with them, being on the elevator. And I mean, it's just little. It's like, look, I'm just trying to work and go home. That's it, you know. But it's like you're doing all this extra stuff, and it's like for what, you know? And then I come and tell her, and you know, she's the same way. She feels saddened by it. She's like, wow, like that's why do they feel like that? It's like why, but it's like they can't. They're not going to tell you why. I mean, no racist wants to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But you know, that's just the world that we live in.
So it's going to sound a little crazy at first, but I think that what helps me to find comfort in that feeling of I'm a man, and even the separation between I'm not just a man but I'm a black man, is choosing to wear the hat of I'm a Christian first and foremost, right? Like I think that faith perspective, that Christ, and specifically Christ-centered perspective, is what helps me to be able to look at the world from the lens of what Nico was talking about, where it's like that color divide. I think that Christ is what allows us to break that filter, if you will, off of the world where we choose to primarily engage in color. And I think that the divine design of it all was for us to be able to accept people where they are from these different walks and still learn to amicably, peaceably learn to live with one another. Like that is the goal, right? So even like starting with my wife, right? So there we may have disagreements, and then she would say there would be times where she might be like, "Oh, that's that's men," and I'd be like, "No, that's kind of people." Like I sometimes I find myself disagreeing with gender specific kind of infractions, like, "Oh, you're thoughtless because you're a man." Women can be thoughtless. Oh, you're insensitive because you're a man. Women can be insensitive, right? So it's like from there, and then the same thing is applicable when it comes to like racial stereotypes, basically the different things that are stigmas that are supposed to rest on us because I'm a black male. No, it's not because I'm a black male. Like men as a whole may deal with these kinds of things, or people as a whole may deal with this kind of thing, but there's some sort of authority or dehumanizing quality in you putting it on black men. You know what I mean? So I think that that's kind of an authoritative um, approach to it, and I think that that's also cultural, you know what I'm saying? Like we talked on earlier, these ideas, like the ideas of manhood and where they come from and your early experiences, right? So the same way that we as a black people have undergone hundreds of years of trauma and are trying to figure out how to love on ourselves and embrace mental health and um um, therapy and incorporating those kind of normalizing those kinds of things within our culture. You have a separate group who has been walking in the ideologies of hate and superiority and supremacy for a number of years as well. And whether we like it or not, we do have to have some sort of patience to accept the fact that it's going to take time for that to change, and then also participating in the process of that change. So for me, like I said, I work in construction. You come across racism frequently because it's the kind of industry where it can be a lot more rampant. It can be it can be a lot more public. I'll say there's space for it to be a lot more public. And so you find people that don't necessarily have to hide behind, they just like, whatever, what you gonna do? You don't have any authority in this space. You can't be a person of value to be a decision maker or an influencer or a changer because you don't have the right skin color. So I can't treat you however, and it won't make a difference. And my response to that is trying to, through my behavior, show them it's unnecessary. And what I mean by that is I try to present myself as somebody that they can relate to, identify with, connect with, and work alongside. So that way they see that some of these stigmas and some of the different preconceived notions I had about you as a black man were just wrong. You know what I mean? Like case in point, I had a conversation with somebody with a white guy at work, and we were talking about the differences, social, we were talking about cultural differences, right? And so this person was sharing with me their perspective, and they were saying, like, oh, the world wants us to be divided, wants us hating one another. And I'm like, yeah, I agree, but that's also kind of contingent on us being able to accept the exchange of our experiences too. You know what I mean? Because we were talking about slavery, and they were talking about how, from their perspective, right, what had been explained to them was that there was still some blacks, even in the early, even in the, I guess, the as late as the 1960s, maybe, that were still fine with slavery. They were okay with it, right? And it wasn't. And I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but that's a small demographic of people who were kept from the information that the Emancipation Proclamation had been put into place, right? That they weren't just okay with it. They were okay with it based on a lie that covered up the ability to be free for real, right? And I'm like, so imagine, put yourself in our shoes. And I asked them, I said, have you ever been to the Black Wax Museum in Baltimore? No. Okay, I expected that no. But if you visited, you'll see that there was a wax display of a pregnant mom strung on a tree, belly sliced open, baby on the ground. Right? Now tell me that you would be okay if that was the potential reality for your wife or your daughter. That in the middle of the night, you know, your owner, first of all, you have an owner, your owner walks into your home, takes your wife out of bed because she's really his and can have her when he wants. Are you okay with this? And his face was like immediately, no, never, never. And I'm like, okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like, why would we as a group ever want to live that way, be exposed to that kind of treatment? That conversation, I think, is effective, right? Because us being able to tap into exchange where we can just express thoughts and back and forth with ideas, that could be the conduit to them opening their mind and saying, like, oh man, like I did not look at it this way. And I'm not saying that's going to be the complete catalyst for change, but it can be an initiator. It can begin to chip away at that construct in their mind and help. And I mean, and I've seen that. That's one example, but I've had multiple conversations like this with non-blacks.
Mm. And that's good that you're able to have that conversation. Say if you're not able to have that conversation, and we're seeing different stuff going on with, our community, our black men and black sisters being, you know, um, beaten for no reason. As a black person, did that heighten your fear of this could be me? And I'm gonna give you an example of my own experience because I was so overwhelmed. I called first of all, I was proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh God, you love me and you worked really well on me because I dealt with a Karen and I couldn't believe it. I was shocked in my mind, like, oh my God, I'm dealing with a Karen. And I was at work and I was coming out the hospital and I was about to jump into my vehicle to bring it to the front, my transit vehicle, the vehicle I drive for work, to pick up a person that's handicapped and needs the service. And I guess she saw the orange vest. So all I hear was, you gonna park my car? So I was like, oh, let me keep walking. I don't think she's talking to me.
Oh wow.
So, but what made me react, she started walking towards me and her hand was in my face. So I was like, what? In my mind, I'm looking at the people looking. So I just immediately turned into the victim. I just started screaming, you don't know me. Who are you? Like, I was like, oh my God, somebody about to record this. But I was so hurt inside. I was frustrated. And I also was proud of myself for not immediately punching her or fighting her, being reactive. I just said, you know what? I'm going to become the victim. And I started screaming. I was like, who are you? I mean, I was going, and then she started coming in my face and said, lady, if you don't back up, you're going to lose your job. So I'm the type of person I can get mad and have sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
When I told her she's gonna lose her job, because I was like, I'm about to call the police on you, and because now I see people running in, and the security guard is coming out. So I laughed inside. The lady was like, I don't even have a job. I was like, oh Lord Jesus.
Oh yeah.
I laugh at it now, but in that moment, I still have triggers from that moment for someone thinking I'm supposed to be on their beck and call because I'm in whatever type of uniform they think I'm in. Mm-hmm. So understanding what you said with slavery, how now things are heightened where people feel like they could comfortably get into your space and you can be that victim of anything and maybe, sorry to say, die or go to the hospital. As a black guy and a man, did your fear heighten?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say fear heightened, but what I can say is I had a similar experience, kind of sort of, to what she was just saying. I was working security. This was like probably 5 years ago, I think. I was working security, and I'm on my way, to my post. At a red light, just wait for the turn green. It was this, I don't know if it was a white couple or not. I don't know if it was together or not, but they approached my car, and the dude opened my back door. He thought I was his Uber driver.
What?
He thought I was his Uber driver. And my initial reaction, I said, "Who the?" And I had to catch myself. I had to catch myself because I'm like, I know they didn't just open my door. Mm-hmm. I mean, they hopped in the car.
Oh man!
And I feel like at that point, you got the right to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was about to, but I caught myself really quickly because, like Larry said, when you're a Christian man, a God-fearing man, there's a certain way that you operate. Mm-hmm. You don't initially just
react
off. Yeah, you don't initially just react because it was literally about to go down that second. I'm not gonna hold you. it was about to get real wild. But I said, sir, what are you doing? And he says, yeah, we requested our Uber. It said you were right here. I'm like, sir, this is not your Uber. Please exit my vehicle right now. And then he tried to make some little smart remark. He was like, oh, well, you could have just took us 2 minutes down. And I said, sir, get out my vehicle, please. Please.
Way.
And in that moment, I felt really really, really frustrated at the sense of entitlement that
Thank
he thought he had in
Mm.
my own vehicle. And it ate me up inside not to react the way that I was conditioned to react.
you.
Because had
Basic.
I acted the way I was conditioned to react,
Mm.
or the way society expects a black man to react, he gets upset, then I would have been feeding right into the stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Right into that story. Oh, there's an angry black man right here. And
Mhm.
the police would have showed up. I would have been the first one in handcuffs.
Mm.
I already foresaw that, you know? And it's like, seeing stuff like that, it's not necessarily a spirit of fear that comes over me, but I do kind of get irritated at the fact that, there is this double standard that exists. There is this sense of entitlement that certain people feel like they have. And, it's like, it was a challenge. It was a real challenge. Like I felt heated inside. Like I literally had to go and pray.
Mm.
I was so upset, at the audacity of this man to think that he can just hop in my vehicle, even though I explained to him in a very nice and polite manner, I am not your Uber driver. Get out of my vehicle, please. And something about, oh, you could have just took us 2 minutes. Dude, first of all, that entitlement will get you hurt. You don't even know. I could be a killer for all you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you just decide, oh, because that's how he was conditioned, that, oh, I could just hop in anybody's vehicle and just get a ride.
Mm.
No. It's just the thought of that. And it's like, as black people, I'm not going to speak for all black people, but I'm pretty sure I can when I say this. But I'll speak for myself. I'm not hopping in no random person's car.
Right.
They are not. I'm going to check license plates and I'm going to check all this. But that entitlement blinds them. They just think, oh, I can walk anywhere and go anywhere freely, and I don't got to worry about nothing. And I'm like, that's so crazy that they think that. And it's not that. It's, yeah, it's not that I want to impose, the black experience on white people. But like Larry said, there has to be there has to be a discussion had. There
Mm.
has to be an understanding on our different ways of life and how we were brought up. There has to be, because certain things like that you just don't do. you know, and it's like we don't have the luxury of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I want to, but it's just the fact that you really think you have that luxury to do that. It really made me frustrated.
Yeah.
And I like I said, there were certain things I wanted to do, but I decided not to do in that moment
And we
because
help.
of my religion.
Yeah.
Just because of that alone, So yeah, that's it's a crazy experience, but yeah, like I said, it's not necessarily so much fear, but it's definitely just a frustrating moment every time you witness stuff like that, whether it's on TV, black man getting jumped or tackled by the police or even killed by the police, and it's like that's something that we have to constantly deal with. But you have, these white people who can just walk freely
Mhm.
and do the same exact stuff we do, and I mean unscathed, untouched. They don't have to worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, you know, I want to say a counter argument, but there was another experience that I had where I did feel a little bit afraid.
Okay.
This is another case where I was working security, and this is before I got my driver's license. I'm riding around with a learners at the time. I should not have been doing that. And it's crazy. I don't even think my mother knows this, but she knows I was using her car, I think, but I don't think she knows about this story. But she might call me later. But so basically, I'm leaving now. I had my headlights off at the time because I was patrolling the construction site, and I usually keep my headlights off when I'm doing that. And it was about maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's time for me to go. So I'm leaving. I forget to turn my headlights back on. Mind you, I'm in downtown Washington, D.C.
Mm.
There are feds on pretty much every corner at that time. I don't know why I didn't think about this. Maybe I was just tired. But I'm driving on my way home. I get pulled over. And I'm like, oh, no. I a driver's license in here. I got on all black. I got a little skull cap on. This does not look good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, let me try to relax because I was a little anxious. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little anxious. And then I look in my rearview mirror and I see who stepped out. White guy, Caucasian, bald head. He's approaching, and it's sad because for a split second, just like how the white people saw me on that elevator, and they already had their preconceived notion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I saw him, I was like, oh no. Like, just no, like not right now. Like, I had my own preconceived notions. I was like, oh, he about to lock me up. It's about to be a wrap. That's what I thought, right? So he approached the vehicle and he asked me, he said, hey, so you know why I pulled you over? I said, probably because my headlights was not on. But they do work though. I showed him like they do work. You know. He said, I see that now, but you didn't have more. And he said, license and registration, please. And that's when I was like, well, I got the registration. As far as the license go, you know, if you can give me about 2 weeks, if you can give me about 2 weeks, you know, but yeah, and I try to, you know, say in a little joking manner to lighten up the mood for myself because
Right.
I was uncomfortable. And he tells me, he's like, so he said, so what are you doing? Like, what's going on? I told him, like, literally, I'm just working security. I'm on my way home to my folks. That's all that's going on. I live in District Heights, you know, just heading that way. And he said, so are you planning on, you know, getting your license? I was like, absolutely. And I was currently enrolled in driving school. I already was getting my hours and all that stuff. So I was definitely on my way to, you know, getting my license. And I explained that to him. He said, look, this is what I'll do. You go home, go straight home. Don't stop anywhere. Just go straight home. Don't let me catch you out here again without your license.
Mm.
And I said, bet. And if with that, went straight home, you know, did what I had to do. And the thing was, you know, after that interaction, I was really thankful, you know, but I did have my own preconceived notions at that time of what I thought was about to happen, but the complete opposite happened. And I had to thank God. I literally had to thank God after that moment was over.
But you also knew you didn't have a license, so you don't, legally you don't even supposed to drive a car.
I know that's the crazy.
Just with your learning, so we give you a little bit of leeway because you was wrong. And you knew you was wrong, and the consequences was even getting a ticket. That would have messed your license up right there for getting your license.
Exactly.
But luckily, God was in the presence and gave you a nice police officer.
Right.
And you didn't have an attitude towards him. You know, you was polite and you made it humorous, you know, to make sure he was comfortable as well. That's how I look at your story.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And the thing was, and I only brought that up to say that it's because of those experiences that we've had where because in my mind I'm thinking, okay, if this officer black, I might could talk my way out of it. if he black, maybe we can identify him. That's what I thought at the moment. That's why I brought that story up. But it's like when I saw him, I was like, but based off of what I've seen, my surroundings and stuff like that, I had that preconceived notion. I'm like, oh, I just assumed the worst. Like, I don't know what's about to happen, but I just assume it's about to be the worst of that. But that was the reason why I brought that story up.
Do you think that life lesson matured you because now you know you shouldn't be out there doing that wrong?
Absolutely. Oh, I got my license shortly after that. Yeah.
Is there something in your life that you remember? I know you said, Larry, your stepfather, came into your life, and Nehemiah, you have your dad. Is there something in your life that they said to you that you see now as a mature man?
Absolutely. I mean, there's probably a number of things that echo back at different moments, but the biggest one, so our senior year of high school, we had an award ceremony just announcing where everybody was going, who got scholarship money, blase blase. And so they wanted everybody to give their life philosophy during during the award show or during the ceremony. And mine was never look down on somebody unless you're extending your hand to pull them up. But that's something I got from my stepdad. That's something that he told me as a child, and he would repeatedly tell me. So that became a part of my life lens, I'll say, to look at people in life that way. You don't look down on people just to be doing it because you think that you have this privilege or this notion in your mind that I can do whatever, that the rest of the world is at my beck and call, or that even my own infractions on others should be taken lightly because of the group I belong to. No, everybody deserves respect. There's a blanket expectation and requirement for respect, not just for other people, but for myself as well. So it's like I expect that from people towards me. And yeah, that was that piece that was just like I'll never put that down.
What's up, Nehemiah? Do you remember anything that your dad instilled in you or said something that you see now as a man in your life?
Oh, there's a man in my life. Something he instilled in me that I see now.
Yeah, as he instilled in you as a little boy, and now you understand it as a man now, and you see it in your life as a grown man, fully mature man.
For me, honestly, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily a phrase, but it was me witnessing his relationship with God. Um, my father, the one thing he always used to tell me, he was like, just, you know, it didn't matter what was going, just always go in God's presence and seek his face. And I found now, like, as I became an adult, that's like the most important thing that I can do. Like every morning, every night. Like I try to get in God's presence, and because you're faced with so much, in life. Like it's a bunch of different type of things, and it's just like it could be a range of things. It could be, it could be work, it could be finances, it could be your marriage, it could be family. It's a wide range of things, and even like we talking about now, just being black in America, really. And you have to really go to God and get in his presence and pray. I would watch my father, and I've sat with my father before, and he would pray for hours.
Mm.
He going in tongues, he crying, he's sweating, he on his knees, he on his face, he on his back. Like any way he can get in God's presence, he was getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
And even just having conversations with God, like not even and that's something that I really grew to do a lot, was just having like I don't know if people do it that much, but I have like a formal just a conversation with God, just talking to him about my day and just talking to him about how I'm feeling and just using God as my outlet and just asking God like to speak to me, you know, and give me instruction, give me what that's like I have to run to. And I run there and I get in my word and everything, and it's like, you know, and God really and I watch him just work in my life. Like he makes things like perfect case in point. I have an example. So I was just about to get my first apartment, right? And I was working as a manager for Impact Maintenance, which it was, and it was a company under the company I work for right now, Atlantic Services Group. And at that time, we had a COO who he came and told me, "Oh, hey, Nico, sorry, but we can't really afford to, you know, keep you here anymore." I was kind of taken back because I do, you know, the books, I do the finances. I've went and collected a lot of money that was not paid previously, and you know, I'm able to see, you know, what we got. I'm like, that sounds weird, you know, and he tells me that, and he said it's already been done, and he told me just to go to the main office at Atlantic and you know talk to them, see if they have something for me. And he was talking in a manner as though like Impact Maintenance was getting ready to close down. And at that time, I was just like, I just got approved for my apartment. And I'm like, this just hit me out of nowhere. And this is about what, maybe I would say a month, maybe a little bit less than that before I was supposed to actually move in. Um, I'm just like, okay, well, I'll go to Atlantic and, you know, I'll talk to them. So I went to the corporate office and I was talking to one of the operations managers. I'm like, yeah, so, no, not the operations manager. I'm sorry. I was talking to the vice president, you know, asking them, you know, what's going on with my employment and stuff like that. I mean, do y'all have anything for me? Because that's what the COO, Rob, had told me to, you know, go and talk to you guys about. And he said, "Oh well, you know, we're looking to see what we got for you. Just give us a couple hours. We'll have somebody reach out." So they did have a gentleman reach out, one of the operations managers from Atlantic, and he said, "Hey, so I know you're looking for, you know, a job and stuff, and right now I have a parking attendant position for you that's paying minimum wage, and you know you can do that. This will be paying me significantly less than what I was already making." And it would, you know, get in the way of me being able to afford to, you know, even get in my apartment. You know, like there's no way I'd be able to afford my rent with that. And that's where I had to really buckle down and pray, like, because I just didn't understand. Like, I just got approved for my apartment. I was so excited. I done already went and got furniture and got TVs and all this other stuff. And then they tell me this, and I'm like, whoa, what? Like that caught me way, way off guard. So, you know, I'm praying and I'm asking God to please just, you know, make a way for me. Like please provide. And something I always say, I lift everything up to him. Like everything. I said, God, please, I lift everything. Exactly, faithfulness. Like I said, that's another example of me having to be, you know, faithful. You know, I believed in God. I was like, look, something's going to happen. Like something is going to happen for me. And I was so happy because that same exact day, I'm sitting in the customer care manager's office, and you know, I'm just sitting over there, just continuously, just you know, praying and you know, talking to people and praying, and the risk management director had came into the customer care office, and he had asked me, he said, "Hey Nico, so what's going on with the job thing?" I said, "Well, only thing I heard was that they have a parking attendant position that's you know paying minimum wage, and you know I kind of want to try to go for something a little bit more because that's way less than what I was you know making before." And he said, "All right, well," he literally told me this. He said, Give me about 2 to 3 minutes. I'll be right back. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, okay. So I'm just in my mind, I'm like, God, if this is what it is, please just let there be no issue. Let everything be smooth. Just please just help me right now that I can just get the salary that I need to get, and that I'll be able to go ahead and move in my apartment and be comfortable and all that good stuff. He comes back literally 2 minutes later, a whole job offer to
Mm.
be auditor of the company.
Wow.
I I'm not gonna lie, I almost broke down and cried. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Right.
I was shocked. Like I was like, God,
Oneself.
yeah, like I really watched God like move. Like I really watched him move. And it's like to see that, it's like can't nobody tell me God isn't real.
Mm.
I
Right.
know for a fact he's real. Like I've seen him work, in my life. And it's like to see, I'm like in the timing of it all, it's like there's no way you can tell me God isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And then even from there, I've been able to move up to a higher position now working as an operations manager with the company.
Amen.
And I was just so thankful for that. And like I said, that's why going all the way back to when we first started the video, like faithfulness, that's
Mm-hmm.
a daily walk for me. You
Mm.
know, I feel like it's a daily walk for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially Black people. And people of all walks of life. To be honest, I mean, we all faced with different adversities and different challenges and stuff like that. But yeah, that it's like you cannot lose that faithfulness. I feel like you lose that, it's no hope. Like it's none. Like
Well,
that.
don't turn away from God. Just
Right. Yeah.
don't turn away from God. Just stand in wherever you're going to from
Right.
your testimony. Continue to pray and just believe, because
Right.
it might not work 2 or 3 minutes for the next person, but it will work. But
Absolutely.
just hold on to what you believe. Like you said, if you know that God is real, keep
Yes.
praying and keep talking to God. He said, pray without ceasing. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna continue to talk to him and say, this is the relationship that we have. You know my heart, you know what I'm going through, but I understand and I believe in you. So I'm just gonna continue to talk to you so I can get through what I'm going through and see the manifestations of what I'm praying to.
Absolutely.
Lord, give us a testimony. What God did for you where you was like, oh, God is real.
There's been a number. There's been,
Just give us one.
oh my goodness. So if I had to think of the first response of God being real in my life, doesn't have anything to do with being black or being a man. Even it was a car accident. This was I had a really bad car wreck, and I got hit on the driver's side. I was hit on my driver's side door. I was pinned literally between my door and my console, the center console of my car.
Oh,
The front windshield had cracked but hadn't bust completely. The sunroof had completely cracked and bust, and I was in so much adrenaline that I was literally trying to climb out of the sunroof. Um,
mm,
and it just so happened at that time. I say just so happened now, but in hindsight, I could see how that was God being with me in that situation. An off-duty paramedic drove past. No EMT had responded yet. No officers had responded yet. It was literally just car wrecking the road. The person that hit me was behind me, and my car's in the middle of the road. And so the young lady got out and she said, "Stop struggling, like be still." But
mm,
you don't know the depths of your injury. And
yeah.
if you struggle now, you may further injure yourself. Wait until EMT responders get here and they can properly get you out of the car. And like I said, hindsight is 2020. And looking back on that moment, so many times after the fact, I've seen or felt like the lesson was, even in this moment of tragedy, even in this moment of complication, even in this moment that has circumstantially brought you pain, I'm with you, right? Um,
Mm,
in a moment where you may want to panic and you may want to frantically try to resort to really escape and get out of this situation, it's going to be a further detriment to you. Stay still and endure this pain temporarily until I get to you. Let me properly get you out of this situation. And so, they came and they cut me out of the car, and they inspected, my body and everything like that. But it was just the idea that I felt so close to death, right? Because they did tell me. I mean, I'm here talking with y'all now, so clearly it didn't happen. But they told me, they was like, if she would have hit you a little harder and there would have been more impact, she might have snapped your neck. And so, because it was literally like I was in a it was a Toyota Solara. That's the vehicle I was in. It was a '87 Bronco that hit me. Right. So back then, I mean, this is a lead sled. This is USDA steel coming, 60, 70 miles an hour, whatever, into me. And um, and so just not expecting it. I looked, it's almost like Spider-Man. He has his spider sense tingling. He might be standing there and feel something is about to go down. So I literally felt something. My body tightened up. I turned away and I looked back. This lady's headlight is literally next to my face. So I think about that accident from time to time. Just the fact that I'm still here, the fact that I'm able to walk and I'm not wheelchair bound or anything like that. Like, like I tapping on Nico's word, faithfulness. I see that as God's hand over my life. And it's a healthy reminder that there's still purpose, there's still destiny, there's still something that I want you to do. There's something I specifically put you here on this earth to do, and I need you to focus on fulfilling and accomplishing that. Don't let it be that we have this conversation at your last breath where you trying to get in, and we have this conversation at the entrance of eternity where I have to be like, why didn't you do the things that I asked you to do? So I try to allow that to be my reminder sometimes that I'm here and there's something that I'm supposed to do. And it does at times help me to remain grounded and also remain humble, because it's like, if I thought about how things could have gone and the reality that I could be living under, right, from that situation, had it not been for God's hand on my life, I don't know where I would be or what I would be up to. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful for God's hand on my life, and also for His call on my life, because I think and I don't want it's not something where it's like I'm not saying there's something specific about Larry and his call. We all have a calling, right? But I'm thankful for my call. I want to respond to it. I want to be obedient to it. I want to like Nico said, it's a beautiful thing when you can see how the Lord flourishes in your life when you give Him the space to.
Yeah.
Right? And when it says in the word, have the faith of a mustard seed, right? So a mustard seed you can literally fit in the crevice of your fingers if you put your tiny. But if that thing ever has the ability to take root, right, then it can literally overrun a field. One seed, one mustard seed can become so fruitful in what it produces that it can overrun a whole field. And I try to let those kind of images fill my mind and remind me of the potency of God's call on my life, the ability that He has to do in anybody's life, right? Because holding on to that reality is so that you can share it. So I'm supposed to be able to take that to somebody and say, hey, you may struggle with addiction or bitterness or unforgiveness or whatever. Now put it down and plant your seed and allow it to flourish in your life, because it can completely take over and overrun the different things that are holding you down, that bitterness, that unforgiveness, that racism, that struggle that you're dealing with, right? It may be prominent in your life until you apply this faith, this seed faith of a mustard seed to it, and it can grow and overrun it. You know what I mean? Like we think about a garden and how a weed has the ability to choke the life out of the plants that we want. Well, a mustard seed has the ability to choke out these different experiences and these different encounters that you've had with the world, and God can silence all that and grow over it and allow it to become something different. When we were talking about the different things that may go wrong in life, and you know, whether it be Black experience or I'm marginalized because, you know, for whatever reason, I think a lot of people overlook the story of Job, right? Because it's like um Job had plenty go wrong in his life, you know, and the one thing that he constantly was going to God for was understanding. He's like, God, this is messed up. Why are you letting this happen to me? Right? And so, and the response that he got wasn't the response that any of us would have wanted. It's the response that we all sometimes receive. He got messed up answers from his friends that tried to put their place in, they tried to insert themselves into God's place and offer him rationale and logic on why he was doing, why things were happening in his life. You must be sinning, you must be up to something trifling, you must be out here living ratchet, because if that wasn't the case, God wouldn't allow all this to go wrong in your life. Even in that struggle, when he got to a place where he could have conversation with God, God didn't just present him with answers and say, yeah, this is why I allowed your family to die. This is why I allowed your livestock to be taken. He said, where were you when I formed the universe? Where were you when I was building the world and hanging stars all throughout the galaxies and all these other things? Where were you when I was doing that? When you can do those things, then come and have a conversation with me about why I allow or why I do da 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 da. And it humbled him to a place where he had to accept, I may not understand. I may
Yeah.
never get an explanation. So when we talk about like, why is it that, like, you know, sometimes I be thinking like, God, what did we as Black people do to end this? How you hold up, you wrote this whole thing and you just scripted in the oppressor. Okay. Okay. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But I think about Job, and I think about the fact that you may never get an explanation. You may never get the closure that you desire about these different things that have taken place, these different atrocities that take place or tragedies that occur in your life. You may not get that explanation or that peace, but your responsibility at the end of the day is to still come to a resolve where I can say I subscribe to the doctrine of faith. I subscribe to my alignment and my relationship with Christ, where he is over me and I'm under him. And if something happens that I don't agree with, that I don't accept, that I don't like, I can still deal with my emotions. I can still be busted up on the inside. Job still grieved, right? He still kind of fell apart and rolled around on the floor, if you will, and had his cry moment. He had his ugly moment, but he at some point had to get up, and getting up was about accepting the fact that i don't I don't have any control over God. I don't have a say so. But I do have an instruction. I'm supposed to continually be obedient. I'm supposed to continually find, to Nico's point, find myself in the presence of God, find myself on my face before God, find myself on my back before God, trying to gain um relationship with him, because in relationship with him and intimacy with him, I I can accept that there are things that I cannot change, right?
Mhm.
I can accept this world around me. I can also accept that because I've learned to get up when my world falls apart, it is now a part of my testimony. So as I share that with others, they can understand. You may not get an explanation about all this trifling stuff going on in your life, but do you need one to get up?
Right.
You don't need one to get up. That's something that you want. We want that closure. We want a explanation. We want that kind of understanding. But the truth is that you may not get it. And if you don't, what will you do? Will you fall apart and allow your world and everything, your calling and everything to go out the window because you can't have what you want in that moment? Or are you going to continue to subscribe to this doctrine of faith, and then I'm going to continue to take steps forward on this path, and I'm going to see what else God has in store for me, right? And whether you expect it or not, because I know everybody takes Job and they turn it into double for your trouble. God's gonna bless you. He gonna shower you. The Bentley is coming. It may not. It may. It may not. It may not. It may not. God knows how. And so here's the thing. God gave him double of certain things, right? So the livestock and the resources that he lost, he got double, right? Job had 7 kids. God didn't give him, he ain't had 14 after the fact. God blessed him with more children, but he didn't double up on that. And my point in bringing that up is God knows how to restore the blessings that are taken from you as well. So even in your lack of understanding, you don't have to fully understand why this has happened, or even God's restoration process. You don't have to understand his restoration process either. You just have to participate in it and allow him to do his work in you.
Gotta trust.
Yeah, trust him. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that because of the topic, boys and men. I feel like if you really grab hold and allow God to mature your life, you will understand how to become a man and
Mm-hmm.
take away some of the stuff that you should not learn, and allow God to pull out the things that's not supposed to be in you. And now you can be the man that God wants you to be, so you can get up and be a light in the world, and how you have great conversations with people that need to be knowledgeable of what they need to unlearn about the African American community or about African American men. So I love how God puts you in those areas so you can talk to them. They
Mm-hmm.
get Maybe one day they'll start, walking and understanding other people and love people for just being human beings and not being a human being with a color. I'm glad that we are different, but don't label me because of the color of my skin.
Yeah.
Just accept me for being the person, and ask me my name and get to know me, not, oh, this black girl or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that because the world is crazy. Sometimes it's hard for people to get out of the bed, but if you speak to God, like you said, if you pray to God, God will give you the strength to say go. And then once you get out there, you be like, Lord, I thank you
Mm-hmm.
for allowing me to get out the door, because I know I had a purpose to, go do what you need me to do, or need me, but want me to do and help someone else. Because if you didn't get out of bed, you probably could have had then speak to those men, at your job or anywhere where you wasn't able to encounter that police officer and get you renewed yourself. Like, wow, okay, let me take a step back and not let me label every Caucasian police officer. That hurry up and change you. Let me be humor. You could have had attitude, but you was like, you know what? Let me be humorous in this moment. So that's the maturity of, to me, as what I'm seeing what y'all speaking about. That's the maturity of how you coming from a boy to a man, unlearning some things that, men instilled into you, and learning some things and keeping it with you as you grow, as you mature, as you get out here and get older, building a family, building a career, building your financial institution where you can, take care of your household. And it's good that you can come home and be vulnerable to this woman who loved you and allow you to be that guy to say, look, I had a rough day. Because sometimes there are men who transfer that energy to their wife and get mad at them, trying to bring that mean world into their household, instead of allowing their woman to be their safe haven and say, I got you. What do you need to unload let me be that person to hear you. If you don't even go to therapy, even if someone who doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend they could be vulnerable with, go to therapy, speak to someone, get that crap off your chest. Don't allow it to build up. Go to someone and speak to someone. Even if you don't go to therapy, like you say, your father showed you how to pray. He cried and he was in the presence of God. That person will feel God's presence over them and start lifting them up, lifting that off of them, and they will see how the load is getting less heavy on them. So
Mm.
I so wonderful that y'all spoke your testimony. And Larry, your testimony hit me because I was at work and I literally was like in the car praising God because I was at work and I drive for a transit company. And I
Mm.
love the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit used that woman to tell you, look here, boy, chill out, stop moving around before you break something else. Like I love how God used people, and I love how the spirit supernatural speaks. And I was driving and I had the right of way. The light was green. The spirit said, you need to stop at the intersection with a green light. And
Mm.
I'm a little sassy. What? Stop.
Mhm.
I had to stop a car southeast, um, South Capitol Street, going towards Maryland.
Oh,
Went straight through the red light,
yeah.
and I stopped at the green light, the stop at the intersection, and I'm looking left to right, and boom, the car went through, and the lady was in the van in the bus. I said, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And I just started saying, "Lord, I thank you."
Mm.
I didn't even care how she thought. I was like, "Oh my God!" I said, "Girl, we would have been gone." I said,
Right.
and I said, I was about to go to that green light, but the spirit told me to stop and look. And when I looked, and I was just like, oh my goodness. So if we just trust God and just get out the bed, understand that some people are like, I don't want to deal with these people out here. But if you just trust God and allow God to just do what God does best, and He orchestrate our lives, just get out the bed, get
Mm.
yourself cleaned up, and just allow God to use you. And I'm glad God used you guys today. I'm so appreciative. I'm like, if I was y'all fine, I'd be proud. Like, I really
I
know it. But
know
it's
that.
it's just so good to hear your experiences and hear your growth. And I hope and pray that other people can relate and take from that and understand that, some things should not be done to a little boy. Allow a little boy to be a boy, allow them to have childhood, allow them to fall and teach them how to verbally speak what they're going through.
Mhm.
Before we get off, anything else you want to say before we end this night, even though we went almost 2 hours?
Um. So there's nothing additional that I can think of, like pressing, to say other than thank you for the invite and the opportunity to participate in this conversation on your platform. I think it's awesome what you're doing. Um, the one request that I do have is, can we close out in prayer? I don't if Nico has anything that he wants to add, brother, feel free, But I just wanted to since we all in agreement and we all believers in the room, I'm like, can we just seal this moment in prayer? That that would do it for me.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Larry. I open you to
Oh
end
yeah,
this.
by all means, please. I'm 100% in agreement.
So okay, and I just for clarity's sake, for me, Portia, the name of your show.
So, peace within the journey of forgiveness. God put it on my heart to talk about forgiveness because forgiveness is actually a way of healing. Forgiveness is also building your relationship with God. God say, "How can I forgive you and didn't forgive?" Like I don't know how. I don't have the scripture right here with me, but
What
how
you
can I forgive you if you don't forgive your brothers and sisters? And that's the reason why Jesus died on the cross. So forgiveness, the blood of Jesus can help us build a relationship with God, the forgiveness of our sins, forgiving us every time we fall and just move forward. Even forgiving yourself. There was a time where I had to really sit down and forgive myself, and the load was so light. I mean, I can feel, I was like, God, what is going on with me? Something is going on with me. And the Spirit said, you haven't forgave yourself. And I
Mm,
wrote down right then and there, and I just felt lighter. And I was like, thank you, because I've done some things that hurt myself. And I'm seeing the manifestations of God, pouring out of me, of healing and just being free of being a deceitful person, manipulating people, easy to fight you, easy to have a block, and just have this. I labeled people. If this person hurt me, you gonna hurt me. I ain't about to love you. You ain't about to love me. But once I forgave my past, it was easy for me to walk in the future that God has for me.
all right, all right, all right. So, okay, so, but one more time for me: forgiveness,
Peace within the
peace,
journey of forgiveness.
peace within the journey of forgiveness. I don't need to write it down. I got it. I got it. All right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as like-minded faith believers, Lord Father. We thank you that we had the opportunity to have a conversation where we could first and foremost uplift it, glorify your name. And Lord Father, where we could secondarily exchange life views and experiences, where we could literally be obedient to how it is that you've designed us to function in this world, in humanity with one another. Your word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but also by the word of our testimony. So, in being able to come together and exchange our testimonies with one another, our experiences with one another, God, we have overcome more than we did at the beginning of this call. And we thank you for that. We thank you for all those who may have had the opportunity to tune in to this conversation. We pray that this may have been edifying and healing for somebody else aside from us, God. You've been so merciful and so gracious and so faithful to us to bless and pour out over our lives. So we hope that this can in turn feed and restore and help to revitalize somebody else. God, we pray for Portia and for her ministry, God, for the vision that you've given her. Just believing in faith, Lord Father, that this ministry that you've deposited on the inside of her, that it is to reach whomever you've purposed for it to reach. If it is a handful of people, they may be a handful of people that will go and then change the world and turn it upside down on its head. This may be for millions up the road, God. But I just ask that you would encourage Portia in her journey, Lord God, that you would continue to encourage her, that you would continue to fuel her with everything that she needs. We ask that resources, that grants, that guest participants for the show, whoever and whatever it is that she needs, make it available to her, Lord God. Open up the windows of heaven right now, pour down from your storehouse into her life, Lord Father. I ask that you would bless Nico, Lord Father. I thank you for him and the boldness to stand before the world as a man and share his testimony and his experiences, and the same for myself. We feel edified and full from this conversation. So we just thank you for a healthy exchange, a healthy experience, and we walk in anticipation of all that you have in store for us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Yay. Thank you. I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all soon. And trust me, I'm gonna call y'all back for 2023.
you. All right. All right.
Absolutely.
Be the great man y'all are. Be the great man y'all are. Thank y'all.
Take care.
Yeah, have a great night.